welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Doug Grober, happy to be here as always. Today on our program, a new take on Romeo and Juliet in Jordan. The Arab world dedicates museums to its music icons. And following the death of Richard Corliss, we take a look at the state of film criticism. In Jordan, an adaptation of Shakespeare's masterpiece Romeo and Juliet was staged for Syrian refugees with some adjustments. Romeo is a 12-year-old refugee in Jordan, while Juliet is still in the city of Homs in Syria, and their love grows over Skype. David Gombin has the story.
There are no balconies and no velvet curtains. This version of a classic play is staged on the rooftop of a building used as a hospital for Syrian refugees. Nawar Bulbul is a Syrian director who has adapted Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet to a different time and context. The actors are children. Romeo is a refugee in Jordan, while Juliet remained in war-torn Syria. But the technological miracle of Skype keeps their love alive.
This play has given many opportunities and strength to children. What seemed impossible is not anymore. We know we have something to look forward to. It gave hope. Thanks to Syrian children, it's possible to envision a better life for Syria.
12 years old Ibrahim plays Romeo. In 2014, his family were victims of the intense bombings. His mother and 3 brothers were killed as a result. He survived but was shot in the leg, and as a consequence was operated on 3 times.
Of course, I felt very good in a way, but I also felt bad for the innocent children who are under siege and continue to be affected. I am pleased to have been able to send our message to the world.
For security reasons, Juliet is veiled and her face is hidden. The 14-year-old actress starred with Romeo from the province of Homs. Although her city is besieged, this does not prevent her from acting. But this doesn't prevent the viewers from escaping and remembering their lives before the war.
The events came as a surprise in Syria. Before, we were young. We spent our time out. Each young man had a love life. All young men were in love. Then the revolution ruined everything. We left it all and we chose to fight to liberate our country.
Romeo and Juliet is a classic that has been adopted many times, but rarely have the circumstances of its interpretation have been so poignant. Beyond the theater's therapeutic role, it is also a way to remind the world that in Syria, approximately over 200,000 people have been killed and 400,000 people are trapped in the ongoing fighting.
Still with some of the less expected outcomes of the war in Syria, Syrian rock bands fleeing war find safety and new fans in neighboring Lebanon. Mixing with the local music industry and revitalizing it gives some bands new opportunities.
Life under siege. That's the main inspiration for these musicians, strumming their guitar in a Beirut apartment. They're members of a rock band from Damascus called Khibz Dawli, the Arabic term for Syria's state-subsidized bread. They fled the conflict in Syria after one of their band members was killed in 2012.
We were oppressed and living under pressure. Then we came here and decided we wanted to take advantage of everything. Everything we couldn't have in Syria, we wanted to have here.
Khibz Dawli is just one of dozens of Syrian bands and artists now performing at Lebanese music venues. While far from home, here at least they're safe from the violence and free to grow artistically. They see Beirut as an incubator, where Lebanese producers like Raed El Khazen are willing to give them that chance.
الحرية والفرص اللي عم تتقدم للشباب هون ولا بيحلموا فيها بالشام.
The freedom and opportunities these guys have here, they could only dream of in Syria. The way they approach music and art and musical instruments should be an example for Lebanese musicians.
لازم تكون مثال للسين بلبنان.
Some bands write songs about everyday challenges and societal pressure, others about Syria's 4-year conflict, which has displaced millions and left more than 220,000 people dead. Members of Tanjaret Daret, Arabic for pressure cooker, arrived in Lebanon in 2011.
We write things that touch everyone, all the people who listen, because they're human things and problems we all face.
While Lebanese bands often sing in English, Syrian groups tend to perform in Arabic. Their take on traditional Middle Eastern music with a Western twist is helping breathe new life into Lebanon's indie music scene.
In the Arab world, the dedication of museums to legendary pan-Arab musicians seem to be a new way of promoting tourism while also preserving history and inspiring national pride. Daniel Campos takes us on a tour.
When speaking about famous 20th century Middle East cultural icons, the name Kulthum is likely to come up. The late Egyptian singer known as the Star of the East is regarded as the greatest Arabic singer in history. 4 decades after her death, she remains a symbol in her homeland, where imposing statues of her stand firm, graffiti, murals, posters, cups, coffee houses with her name, and where more recently young contemporary artists and fashion designers are paying tribute. In recent years, the Kulthum Museum in Cairo has also become a major site for tourists who wish to learn more about the singer, while also getting a chance to view her dresses, sunglasses, her passport, and her awards. Now Lebanon wants to create a similar type of museum to honor its very own pan-Arab icon, Fairuz. Nohad Wadi Haddad was born in 1934 in a Christian family. She's considered one of the most widely admired and deeply respected living singers in the Arab world. She's commonly known as Ambassador to the Stars, or the Jewel of Lebanon. In modern-day Beirut, artists continue to pay tribute to the diva through graffiti and pop art designs. Now it's time for Beirut's municipality to turn her childhood home into a museum.
The museum will be a place for Lady Fairuz, including her work, her artistic and cultural heritage.
Despite her fame, Fairuz disappeared from the music scene for more than 2 decades until January of 2008. Then she performed at the Damascus Opera House, taking the lead role in the musical Good Morning, in one of a series of events highlighting UNESCO's designation of Damascus as a capital of Arab culture that year. Fairuz's last album was released in 2010 and was called Fi Amal. Yes, there is hope. Her last on-stage concert was in 2011. Now the plans to restore the house and open a museum in her honor has made many Lebanese hope that Beirut is finally preserving its heritage. Most of the city's historic buildings were demolished to make space for high-rise towers. But in this case, the priority seems to be to honor Fairuz's career and celebrate Lebanon's most beloved songstress.
In a moment, we'll speak of film critic Richard Corliss, who passed away last week. But first, our cultural recommendation for the day.
One of the most important visual artists of the second half of the 20th century, Louise Bourgeois was born in France. She spent most of her life in New York, where she moved in 1938. Among the works symbolizing her career, this gigantic spider called Mom, and monumental sculptures found in front of the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, at the Tate Modern in London, or in front of the Ottawa Art Museum. This year, one of these art pieces was installed at the Moderna Museet, the Modern Art Museum of Stockholm. The Moderna Musette is dedicating a large retrospective to the famous visual artist. I Have Been to Hell and Back returns as one of the major themes that have shaped the career of Louise Bourgeois, dealing with the symbol father, mother, their eroticism, love, and feminism. And for children, the famous spider is also present in small throughout the museum. The exhibition is a treasure hunt of discovery.
Shachar Peled is back in the studio with her segment Offscreen. It's all yours.
Hi, Oded. Today we talk about film critics, and what are they good for anyway? Well, last Thursday, Time magazine lost its film critic for the past 35 years, Richard Corliss. He died in Manhattan, and Time, in their obituary, opened with the words, "To any fan or friend who would ask whether a new movie was worth seeing, Richard Corliss had a stock reply. He said, everything is worth seeing." Now, while these days most film critics are considered elitist and condescending even, he was a very populist critic. He was the first actually to include Pixar films in his best 10
populist, but
films.
in a good way.
And in a very good way. Also, Simpson episodes were in his best features, and absolutely in a good way, because he managed to connect to the box office.
Film
Absolutely. And Todd McCarthy, actually, of The Hollywood Reporter, writes wonderfully, "Not too many critics had the courage to equally champion Rainer Werner Fassbinder and Baz Luhrmann, Michael Haneke and Peter Jackson, directors of very, very different prestige, and Corliss did this. And not only was he relevant, very much like the famous late Roger Ebert, who died actually exactly in April 2 years ago, he was a critic of criticism itself. He used to write in Film Comment, a magazine he edited, articles such as, "Is there a future for film criticism?" Or in Time magazine years later, "Do film critics know anything?" So he was actually very critical of the job itself.
He didn't want any competition.
It's, well, you can put it that way, but you know the phrase, those who can't do teach or become film critics, it's so untrue in his case or in Ebert's case. If we take a look at Ebert, for example...
you don't get the feeling from them that they wanted to be filmmakers, but somehow
It's true,
failed.
but it's not only that. Ebert, for example, was a screenwriter. He wrote the script for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. There's the incredible Life Itself documentary depicting his life, which really shows that him and also Corliss, as we showed, an editor of a film magazine, were cultural figures on their own right. But if we look at today, with Metacritic and Rotten Tomatoes, websites which aggregate professional reviews, there's also IMDb and Facebook and Twitter, where everyone can become a critic.
Right.
And so...
usually not very nice critics.
Absolutely. And I'd like to quote here an Israeli film critic, in fact, who says, Yair Raveh, who says, "It seems film critics today part into two. Those who are fired because the young editors don't understand why they're needed or necessary, or those who die." So these are not so good news to film critics, but thorough research does show the connection between film critics and the success in box office, especially during Christmas and award periods, where they actually almost control the results. It's very interesting to see. Naturally, the 6,000 members of the Academy Awards can't see all films. They go very much to the reviews that these film critics, that's what they do. They are paid to watch films. As Corliss said, this is a magnificent job. And yet, it's very hard to justify yourself all the time being this cultural reviewer that not many people understand. Metacritic, as we know, and Rotten Tomatoes are websites which do give these critical figures their stage, because people go and look, but also many go...
It comes down to the number. You know, they come up with a number, and then that film has this number, and it doesn't matter who wrote it. And
it's true, but if we'll take a look at the film criticism and the New York Times, they don't actually give a number. They give their review of the film, and these such websites put it once again into numbers, because today
nowadays what people are
all
looking
about
for is
numbers.
that bottom line.
It's the 5 stars, it's the bottom line. This is what these websites do. At least they are still what we look for when we come to see a film.
All right, I'll look for your criticism and I'll read it more carefully. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Oded.
We end today with Dub Taser, an Israeli electronic music producer and DJ. His latest piece with Unbelievable and the Rajasthan Gypsies was written, recorded, and shot in Pushkar, Rajasthan. Here it is. Enjoy.